Yeah, good morning everyone. Hope you have done FST5 well. So in FST5, in both the papers, predominantly little organic is dominated. Hope you have done well and you score well. So the only thing from this paper you can understand is, so before you come to the exam, you have to practice little bit, whether it is physical inorganic or organic. So without seeing the reactions or without seeing the formula, it is not so easy to attempt the paper. Hope you have seen even in that matrix matching, also matrix matching, which means that one table has given and after that questions were given in thermodynamics. That is all completely based on the formula only, it is nothing else. And after that organic is also like the same, and the paper is little the paper size is also, which means quantity of the number of the questions are also very less. So which means hope you have done well this paper. Now let's start with the question number 37. So here physical chemistry is started. At high pressure, the compressibility factor of 1 mole of van der Waals gas can be given as at high pressure. So first we have to write the real gas equation. Real gas equation, which is nothing but van der Waals equation. Van der Waals equation, P plus A divided by Vm square into Vm minus B is equals to RT. So at a high pressure, P plus A divided by Vm square is equals to P, because when compared to the P, A divided by Vm square, which is, it will be very less, such that I can write P. Now we could write P into Vm minus B is equals to RT. Now this is the expression that we have. Now this expression we need to change into the given format. And here both all of them which are given in terms of the compressibility factor, such that it is better to convert into the compressibility factor terms. That is P into Vm minus PV is equals to R into T. PVM is equals to RT plus PV. So now divide the entire expression with the RT. PVM divided by RT is equals to 1 plus PV divided by RT. Now this value is nothing but compressibility factor Z. Z is equals to 1 plus PV divided by RT. This is one expression. That expression is there as option A. Now when you see the next one, that is we have to check with the another one that should comes in terms of the Vm terms. Now let's see. P into Vm minus B is equals to RT. P equals to RT divided by Vm minus B. Now do one thing. Divide the entire expression or multiply the entire expression with Vm divided by RT. Vm divided by RT. Now P into Vm divided by RT, that is equals to RT divided by Vm minus B into Vm divided by RT. So this RT gets cancelled. Here PVM divided by RT equal to Z, we can write Z equals to Vm divided by Vm minus B. So this expression or this equation is all about, you know that equation, van der Waals equation we know. That van der Waals equation of real gas we have to adjust into the given options. Which means just verify the options such that here the answer which will be both A as well as C. A and C. Next. Question number 38. Here inorganic came, which is nothing but metallurgy. Which of the following statements are incorrect? Which of the following statements are incorrect regarding copper extraction from CuFeS2. Here what we will do, first it is going to be grinded, and after that it is going to be put it in the froth flotation process since it is a sulfide ore, and after that we will do normal roasting. In the roasting, CuFeS2 which on treated with oxygen, it can be converted to, first it can be converted to Cu2S, and this is going to be converted to FeS plus SO2 will be formed, and after that further excess amount of oxygen when we use, it is going to be converted to FeO and Cu2S. As we all know that copper is having the more tendency towards the sulfur rather than the oxygen. Here you have to understand one thing, that is the copper is having the more covalent character, and FeO which is present here, and it is going to be eliminated in the form of the slag by combining with the SiO2. FeSiO3 is the slag during this process. So what we will do, more than 50% of impurities which are present here, these impurities to be eliminated from the copper in the form of by converting into the FeO or in the form of the FeSiO3. So first CuFeS2 we will roasted it, and then after it can be converted to Cu2S and FeO along with SO2. There gradually FeO is going to be eliminated in the form of FeSiO3. There it is not completely converted, that's why we can transfer the entire mass into the Bessemer converter. In the Bessemer converter we will add a little amount of SiO2 also. There also little amount of SiO2 is present. There also Cu2S FeO, both of them are present in it. Most of the, if there is any little amount of the FeS is present even in that ore, it can be converted to FeO, and that FeO will be transferred into FeSiO3, hence it will be eliminated. Gradually entire iron is eliminated in the form of the slag. Now what will be formed? Cu2S try to react with the oxygen and it can be converted to Cu2O. Now this formed Cu2O will combine with the Cu2S, gives rise to, it forms 6Cu plus SO2. This is self-reduction process. So hence it is going to be formed as some 99.6% we can call it as a blister copper because of some bubbles which are going to be formed in the Bessemer converter. And after that we will process through that electrolytic reduction, and there we will get like anodic mud is taken as an like impure copper taken as an anode, and pure copper is taken as cathode, and after that we will get the 100% pure copper. So this is overall extraction of the copper. Hope you know, I am just revising it, that's it. So in this, it is extracted by carbon reduction, not at all. It is extracted by self-reduction. So that is an incorrect option. During roasting, Cu2S remains almost unaffected. No, not absolutely. If little amount of Cu2S converted to Cu2O, again that Cu2O combines with FeS, it can be converted to, this reaction is always on the cards. Cu2S is formed, Cu2 is formed. If it combines with FeS, it will be converted to FeO plus. This reaction will take place. Therefore, almost every time the Cu2S is maintained in the form of the Cu2S. Yes, that statement is correct, and that is not correct option. That is what I am saying. In Bessemer converter, only self-reduction occurs, not slag formation, not absolutely. If little amount of FeS is present in the roasting, that can be processed through the Bessemer converter, and in that Bessemer converter, a little amount of FeS, it undergo oxidation, which means it reacts with oxygen converted to FeO, and thereafter it combines with SiO2 converted to FeSiO3. Blister formed in the blister copper is due to dissolved carbon dioxide, not at all carbon dioxide which is not going to be present in it. So A, C and D are the incorrect options. Next, let's move to question number 39. Let's move to question number 39. Yeah, in question number 39, which is our correct statements about AgCl solid given that Ksp of AgCl is equals to 10 power minus 10 and Kf of AgNH3 taken twice is equals to 10 power 8. So, given that the solubility of AgCl in pure water. So, first check the solubility of AgCl in pure water. First, let's check this. AgCl solid gives rise to, in an aqueous solution, it can be converted to Ag plus Cl minus. Let us suppose that its solubility is 7, this is S, and now Ksp is equals to S square, which implies that 10 power minus 10 is equals to S square, which implies that S is equals to 10 power minus 5. Therefore, in pure water, solubility of Cl minus is 10 power minus 5 and solubility of Ag plus is also 10 power minus 5. Such that the first option is true. The solubility of AgCl increases in the presence of AgNO3. Solubility of AgCl decreases in the presence of AgNO3. Why? What is the reason? Yes, absolutely. That is a common ion effect. Common ion effect. That is adding AgNO3, which means you are adding Ag plus ions. These Ag plus ions will cause the common ion effect and the equilibrium will be shifted towards the backward direction. Right. So B option is going to be wrong. Solubility of AgCl is more in buffer solution of Na2HPO4 and Na3PO4 in comparison to a buffer solution of NaH2PO4 and Na2HPO4. Let's see, this is little a small simple technique kind of a question, simple technique kind of a expression. That is, first we will see Na2HPO4. Na2HPO4, which is nothing but HPO4 2 minus. Na3PO4, which means PO4 3 minus. And another buffer that is given is H2PO4 minus and another one is HPO4 2 minus. When solubility will be increased, when the equilibrium will be shifted towards the this forward direction, Na plus ion, as we all know that it is a conjugate, or it is nothing but the conjugate of the strong base. Therefore, Na plus ions are going to be arrested. So, the common ion effect or the solubility increment or decrement, which can be happened only if Ag plus combines with someone. Ag plus, it is having the positive charge, it can be combined with the anions. So, here the anions are, you just see in this buffer solution we have 2 minus as well as 3 minus. Here it is having minus as well as 2 minus. When compared with this buffer it is having the more anionic charge. As the size of the anion, as the charge of the anion increases, then the ability to combine with Ag plus also can be increased, such that equilibrium can be shifted towards the forward direction. So, this statement is absolutely true. Listen, which means PO4 3 minus, if I add it can form Ag3PO4. HPO4 2 minus is added. Ag2HPO4 can be added. Here also it can form. But when compared with these charges are less, such that both can shift the equilibrium towards forward direction. But who can shift more? That is this buffer solution, because of the more anionic charge. So statement C is true. Next, solubility of AgCl in 2 molar ammonia solution is 0.166 molar. Now we have seen these kind of questions so many times, and hope you have in your notebook also this question. We will see once anyway. So that is nothing but I'll check this AgCl solid gives rise to Ag plus Cl minus, and here it will be Ag plus plus 2 moles of ammonia gives rise to Ag NH3 taken twice. Now let's add both these equations. Here this Ag plus gets cancelled. Now AgCl solid plus 2NH3 gives rise to AgNH3 taken twice plus Cl minus. Now this is the Kc. Here it is Ksp. This is Kf. But Kc is equals to, from this equation we can write Ksp into Kf. Ksp into Kf. So from this we know Ksp value is given, we are already given. Kf value is also given. Therefore Kc is equals to Ksp into Kf. That value is equals to 10 power minus 10 to 10 power minus 8. That is equals to 10 power minus 10 into 10 power 8. That is equals to 10 power minus 2. The equilibrium constant for this equilibrium is going to be 10 power minus 2. Now, here ammonia is given as 2 molar. Initially it is 0. 2 minus 2x. It is going to be x. And it is going to be x. Right. Now, Kc is equals to, we can write this one, x divided by 2 minus or 2 into 1 minus x whole square equal to 10 power minus 2, which implies that here it is going to be x divided by 2 into 1 minus x equals to 1 divided by 10, which implies that 10x is equals to 2 minus 2x, that is, which implies that 12x is equals to 2, which implies that x equal to 1 divided by 6, nothing but 0.166 molar, which is absolutely true. Therefore, the options are going to be A, C and D. These are all true. Thereby, here this question which is repeatedly given, and these two options are simple options. You can, it is not going to be like A, B as well as C options. It is not very difficult, which is given based on the only just common ion effect only, as well as the nothing but when you add some counter ion to a particular reaction, then equilibrium can be shifted towards a forward direction or backward direction. So in such way which they have given. Okay, right? Now let's see question number 40. Question number 40. For which of the following ions is the number of unpaired electrons in octahedral complex is the same numbers as in the free ion, no matter whether the ligand is weak or the ligand is strong? First, chromium, Cr plus 3. Cr plus 3, which means a 3d3. Whether it is a strong ligand or weak ligand, it doesn't matter. Next, nickel, Ni plus 2, D8. As we have given, which means 3d8. As we were given even in the notes also, you just check once, right from D8 configuration, D8, D9, D10, whether it is a weak ligand or a strong ligand, it doesn't matter. Here there will be no change, no pairing up takes place. You just check once. T8 plus 3, here no doubt about it. Scandium, titanium, 4s2, 3d2, and it becomes a 3d1. Obviously these three are going to be, it doesn't matter whether it is a strong ligand or weak ligand. But whereas in the case of the manganese, Mn plus 2, it's going to be D5. Because it is manganese is 4s2, 3d5. After losing the 2 electrons, it gets a 3d5. Definitely in the presence of strong ligands, it's going to be paired up. But whereas in the presence of the weak ligand, it is not going to be paired up. That's why its a paramagnetic character will be changed. In the presence of weak ligand, its magnetic character, paramagnetic character or magnetic moment is very, very high. Because square root of 5 into 5 plus 2. Whereas in the presence of the strong ligands, its paramagnetic nature is less. That is already given. Manganese fluorine octahedral complex we have, as well as manganese cyanide complex we have. So from that you can see, those are already given in your notebook. You just see once. So 3d3, d8, d1. We have seen this. d1, d2, d3, d8, d9, d10. Whether it is a weak ligand or a strong ligand, there will be no change. As it is a statement which is given in your notebook. Check once. Now, question number 41. In question number 41, question number 41, here they have given correct statements for the complete hydrolysis of XeF4 under ambient conditions. It will be hydrolysis of XeF4. XeF4 upon hydrolysis, it definitely forms Xe plus XeO3 along with, it is going to form oxygen gas and HF. Right. So this is the equation which is an unbalanced equation. From this you can understand here xenon oxidation state is a +4, here it is a 0 and it's going to be +6. So xenon undergoes disproportionation. First, what are the correct statements? First one, it is a non-redox reaction. Absolutely bullshit, because it is definitely it's a disproportionation reaction, so that it is a redox reaction. It is dangerous to store XeF4 in moist glass vessel. We will see. Glass composition is, what is the glass composition? SiO2. For example, if you store XeF4 in moist glass, which means it contains water, and it is going to form XeO3 along with oxygen and HF it forms. The released HF, it combines with SiO2, 4HF, it combines with SiO2 and it is going to form SiF4 plus 2H2O. And further after that, SiF4 plus 2HF gives rise to, it is going to form H2SiF6. This is nothing but we can call it as etching of glass. Glass can react with only one acid, that is the only HF, but not with any other acid. Even strong acids like H2SO4, HNO3 or some HClO4, those are all does not affect. Only this one can affect. Sir, what is the reason? The reason is being a smaller atoms of the fluorine. Why chlorine does not react? Or we have this question with you can see. SiCl6 does not exist. Why? Because of the larger size of the chlorine. If chlorine is unable to form the complex, then bromine and iodine, it's completely ruled out. So here another one more question came. So I am just mentioning it. Yeah, it is dangerous to store because the formed HF, it can combine with SiO2 and that SiO2 will form the SiF6 2- kind of complexes. Therefore, it is highly dangerous to store. The total number of different gases released as products is 2. So the gases are, this is the gas, XeO3 is a solid, XeO4 is a solid, XeO3 is a solid. Both of them are highly sublimating solids. It involves a disproportionation reaction. Absolutely true. Which means B as well as C and D, all the three are going to be true. Yeah, next section 2, which is 3-digit integer, given that. And then this question number 44. So the first question is the degeneracy of first excited state of hydrogen atom. The degeneracy of first excited state of the hydrogen atom. N equal to 1 ground state, N equals to 2 first excited state, N equals to 3 second excited state, N equals to 4 third excited state. So N equals to 2 is going to be the first excited state. In this, which orbitals are present? 2s, 2p orbitals are present. In this, px, py and pz are present. Therefore, it is going to be, how many orbitals are present in this? 4. For example, if they ask the total number of orbitals present in the degenerated orbitals present in the third energy state or second excited state, it will be 3s, 3p and 3d. How many total degeneracy orbitals are? Yes, you are right, 9. So it's going to be like this. And similarly, third excited state or fourth energy state. Next, 45. Question number 45. Consider the following reaction: Na3PO4 plus NH4 taken twice MoO4 plus HNO3. Canary yellow precipitate it can be given, which is nothing but a test for phosphorus, which is there in your organic chemistry. So the reaction will be Na3PO4 plus NH4 taken twice MoO4 plus HNO3 gives rise to X. That is nothing but NH4 taken thrice PO4, which means ammonium phosphate. This is canary yellow precipitate. So ammonium phosphate molybdate. This will be the canary yellow precipitate. In this, total number of atoms of 15th group elements which are sp3 hybridized in compound X is P. Total number of 15th group elements. 15th group elements. This is 15th group element. How many number of elements are there in this? 3. This is also 15th group. 1. Therefore 3 plus 1, that is equals to 4. Oxygen is the 6th group element. Of course molybdenum is a D block. Oxygen is a 6th group element, therefore it is not at all a matter. Hydrogen anyway does not belong to any group. Next, therefore P is equals to 4. Next one, second question. In unit formula of compound X, total number of oxygen atoms is Q. Total number of oxygen atoms. Here 4 oxygen atoms are there. 12 3s are 36 plus 4. Yes, 40. Therefore, Q is equals to 40. Such that P into Q is equals to 4 into 40. That is equals to 160. 3-digit integer, which is 160. Next, question number 46. This is also a repeatedly asking question, which is already, I guess, which is already given in JEE Advanced also once. You have to see, you have to check once. The volume of nitrogen gas at STP required to cover a sample of silica gel with a monomolecular layer is 112 cc per gram of gel. Calculate the surface area per gram in meter square of the gel if each nitrogen molecule occupies 16 into 10 power minus 20 meter square. So now you see volume of nitrogen gas given, that is equals to 112 grams per cc. Now for this, number of moles of nitrogen is equals to 112 grams divided by 22,414. If you want to calculate total number of molecules, it will be 6 into 10 power 23. 6 into 10 power 23. Now these are the total number of molecules. Each molecule surface area given, how much? That is given as 16 into 10 power minus 20. Now how many total number of molecules are there? 112 divided by 22,414 into 6 into 10 power 23 into 16 into 10 power minus 20 meter square. Now you calculate this one. So the calculation which is subjected to you. So question number 46. Next, question section 3. In this beautiful question which is given, it's a little lengthy one also. Section 3 we have here, and here it is given as one process is given, one thermodynamic process which is given, that is A, and it is B, which is C, and it is D. So this is one general process which is given in this E to F. F which is given, yeah. Now, so in the graph shown below, A to B, B to C, C to D are the parts of the Carnot cycle operating of an ideal gas. Consider, we know that what is Carnot cycle. only the path from state 1 to 2. W denotes the work done in the path. Equations and plots in the table have standard notations. Gamma is the ratio of heat capacities at constant pressure to constant volume, we know, which is nothing but Cp divided by Cv is equals to gamma. The moles of the gas is N, which means N number of moles of gas that they have taken. So in this, the first one that they have given, graph P. This is general graph which is given. So first of all, we have to identify, as we all know that this is going to be at constant pressure and this is going to be volume. This is isobaric process. This is isothermal and it is adiabatic. And it's going to be isochoric, as we know. Now, in this P graph, Q graph, R graph and S graph. So, for this P, Q, R, S, what they have given, and let's find out. In this, in the P graph, he has given A to B, and here it is given as 1 to 2. Therefore, obviously, it will be an isothermal process. Q graph 1 to 2, where it is given B. Here 1 to 2 is given. Therefore, it is going to be adiabatic. R graph, that is B to C, C to D, B to A to B, B to C, C to D, and here he has given 1 to 2 is this 1, 2, such that it is constant pressure. It is going to be isobaric. First identify all this, isobaric. And the last one, B to C, C to D, A to B, and here they have given as 1 to 2. Here they have given, this is going to be isochoric. Isochoric. Now, first try to match. We were matched the process as well as the graphs. Now we have to match these work dones. So those work dones are for isothermal process. For isothermal process, which is like work done is going to be minus nRT ln V2 divided by V1. Therefore, it will be 4 1 P is for this graph. Next graph, it is going to be 1 4 Q. Why I have taken 1 4 Q? Because this is which kind of which type of graph? Adiabatic. In adiabatic, what is the work done formula? What is going to be the work done formula here? Work done is equals to, we will get N into Cv into delta T. Yep, NCV delta T. Because that value is going to be 1 divided, Cv is equals to R divided by gamma minus 1 into delta T. Therefore, adiabatic work done is NCV delta T, correct? Why NCV delta T? Q is equals to 0. When Q is equals to 0, work done is equals to delta U. Delta U is equal to NCV delta T. That's why this is the one. For isobaric process, at constant pressure. So, at constant pressure, here it is going to be 3, 2, yes. Why it is a 3, 2, S? No, this for this is 3, 2, S. 3, 2 isochoric S graph. Because isochoric process work done is equals to 0, whereas for isobaric process work done is equals to minus nr delta t, which is reasonably correct for this, and it is going to be 3 2 3 r 2 3 r. So these here what I have done, I have first taken graphs, I analyzed the graphs first, and I identified the process, and I matched those ones with the work dones, which is nothing but here the work done W is equals to minus nRT ln V2 divided by V1. Here the work done adiabatic process, therefore work done is equals to, here the work done is equals to N into CV delta T. Here the work done is equals to W122 is equals to minus nR delta T. It could be minus P extra into delta V, but here that expression which is not there, therefore I have taken nR delta T, that is most relevant to this. For this isochoric process, work done is equals to 0. Based on that, I matched all these ones. Right? Now, let's go to the questions first. Now, for all these questions, the first question, question number 49, dq reversible for a system divided by t is greater than 0 and dq irreversible divided by t greater than 0 if taken irreversibly, which means delta S reversible system is greater than 0, delta S irreversible of a system is greater than 0 for whom, which means change in entropy of a reversible process of system greater than 0, change in entropy of irreversible process of a system is also greater than 0 for whom. First of all, let us take the formula that we have. Delta S is, which means total entropy. Total entropy. Delta S total of a reversible process is equals to 0. Delta S total of an irreversible process is always greater than 0. This is, we know, this is nothing but the second law of thermodynamics statement also. Now, in this case, if you just see here, delta S reversible system is greater than 0, delta S irreversible system is greater than 0. Now for this, I will take from the first law, first I will derive the formula, then after we will check. So from first law, delta U is equals to Q minus W. Q is equals to delta U plus W. Now it is going to be, now if I take delta S is equals to Q reversible divided by T, by substituting these values delta U plus W divided by T, for a reversible process we will get the change in entropy which is equals to, for this expression, delta S is equals to, we will get the formula for this, N into Cp ln T2 divided by T1 plus NR ln P1 divided by P2. If you change this expression, it will come out as delta S is equals to NCV ln T2 divided by T1 plus NR ln V2 divided by V1. By solving this, we will get this expression. Now, let us take for the first process, which is nothing but isothermal. For isothermal process, delta S reversible system. Isothermal process, T1 is equals to T2. Therefore, delta S reversible system, that is equals to NR ln V2 divided by V1. Delta S reversible system, irreversible system, is equals to minus P external into V2 minus V1. minus p external into V2 minus V1. Therefore, for irreversible process as well as reversible process, in both the cases here, this is absolutely not equals to 0. Therefore, which is going to be, the correct option is going to be isothermal process. So for isothermal process, you just look at this one. Isothermal process, where we have isothermal, here we have isothermal. Therefore 4,1p. Where we have 4,1p, option B. Therefore that is going to be true. Sir, I will check with the isochoric process. If you check with isochoric, in isochoric process, delta S system reversible, that is equals to, obviously it will be equals to, you can take isochoric process, V1 is equals to V2. Therefore NCV ln T2 divided by T1. Then what about the isochoric process? Irreversible, 0. That value is equals to 0. Next, let us consider for adiabatic process. In an adiabatic process, Q is equals to 0. Just see, for an adiabatic process, delta S system reversible is equal to 0. Delta S surroundings reversible process also equal to 0. Whereas, see, for an adiabatic process, delta S system reversible is equal to 0. Delta S surroundings of a reversible process also equal to 0. Both put together equal to 0. That is true. In an adiabatic process, delta S system reversible is greater than 0. Delta S surroundings irreversible. Irreversible is equals to 0. Then only delta S total irreversible is greater than 0. So only for system it is greater than 0. Not for the surroundings. So that is not true. Even you take isobaric process. For isobaric process also which is not true. Next, therefore option B. Next, question number 50. For which of the following options dq irreversible, which means delta S irreversible system is greater than delta S reversible system? When delta S irreversible system is greater than delta S reversible system. Delta S irreversible system of an adiabatic process is definitely greater than delta S reversible system. Just now we have seen. Therefore, where we have that adiabatic expression, so for adiabatic 1,4Q where it is A. Yes, absolutely I am telling you, there is a correction. Not D, A is the correct. Next, for which of the following options, 51, for which of the following options delta S reversible of system is equal to 0, delta S reversible system is equals to 0. So for whom both delta S system equal to 0, delta S system irreversible, in delta S system reversible equal to 0 and delta S irreversible system also equals to 0. In which process both are equals to 0? Is there any process which is having in both the cases that is equal to 0? Absolutely not. Definitely not. You check with isothermal. No, in both the cases that does not equal to 0. You take isochoric process. Definitely in irreversible process that definitely which is not equals to in reversible process that definitely not equal to 0. Next, you take isobaric process as you take isochoric process. In any of those process, both the system, both reversible as irreversible, for system change in entropy is equals to 0. Such that the option is going to be D, none. So, yes, I am telling you there is a correction. So that is for 50th question A option, whereas the 51 question option D. Okay, right? So now this is the end of both the physical as well as inorganic FST 5 paper 1. Now let's see FST 5 paper 2.